Gonna be a hot one today, Casey.
Yeah, I'm pretty fanatical today.
I don't like that.
Why? Is it because you're fanatical?
You know what? I'm fanatically against that as a catchphrase. How about that? We're spicy today. We're spicy.
We're very spicy.
You know what? This is
we're
fanatic on fanatic crime about to take place.
We're getting up in each other's kitchen about stuff.
First of all,
and it's not even a bad argument either.
First of all,
we're on the same side. We just like to argue with each other.
First of all, we got a bit of house cleaning to do. The homie Austin said he literally pounded his steering wheel when last week, when we began the 40K Fanatics podcast exclusive Space Marine segment as a weekly fixture. You got to stay around to the end to catch it. And I used it as a jumping off point to talk about female Custodes, which I have got more to say about.
We're both for it.
And you did not call me out on the fact that Custodes are not, in fact, Space Marines, which you're going to need to explain that to me.
We're gonna get to the lore video eventually, people, but we got to meta chase and talk about what is going on in our community because, boy, there has been some hot stuff, baby, this evening in
hot
the Warhammer
stuff,
community,
baby, tonight.
Yeah, is it?
No, I want to hear right now. What is this nonsense that the Custodes are not Space Marines? Are they not giant, 10-foot tall?
They are transhuman-like, much like Space Marines.
Okay, where is the difference in this?
The difference being that they take much, much, much longer to make. If you look in our Horus Heresy Part 1 episode, there is a partial explanation. But cut it short, to make a Custodes, you start from the womb. And you use chemicals and gene crafting, but no surgery upon the person's body. So from the womb or infantile state, they are all chemically altered and eventually grow. Instead of being a Space Marine, you're already like 7 to 12 years old. You already know how your body works. You know, so you have to get used to all these surgeries and stuff over time, train and learn how to do this. Custodes just know. And they're stronger, faster, and better because they use the gene seed from the Emperor himself.
I see. So with the Custodes, it is not their body, their choice.
Yes, and in matter of fact, they are farther removed from humanity than Space Marines. They actually don't dream. They sleep, but they don't dream. They can basically stand somewhere for years on end, just still like a statue. Be fine. I want to say over a century. That's partly their job, and their whole job is to protect the Emperor. They also do not have emotions. Things like honor, courage, fear, pretty much anything that a Space Marine has, anger, that helps him do his job, gone. And it helps him fight even better.
Does it even make sense?
They're also taller.
Does it even make sense that the Custodes are an army? Like a playable faction? Because they don't do...
The debate has been going on for years.
Because, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, they're not actually in a ship traveling around getting dropped onto planets to do anything. That is not what they do.
No, and that is something I've been wanting to hit on with you specifically because you're jumping in at an interesting point. Used to be the Custodes only stayed on Terra. They only protected the palace. They only stopped stuff from going after the Emperor.
Which has happened once?
Yes, well, with Guilliman coming back, Terra was invaded by demons once again. And over 10,000 years, things have happened. Stuff got out of the Emperor's secret vaults, and a lot of other stuff has happened. So, Guilliman, after some convincing, told the Custodes, you guys better get out here because it's getting bad. In fact, Custodes are pretty much a step down from a Primarch.
So, before we turned on the microphones, you were going on about Ret-cons and how you hate them and how... So, last week when we discussed the female Custodes, which, again...
We're both for.
I preface this by saying that the only people that are really charged up about this are people in non-serious places on the internet. Let me give you an example about what I mean by non-serious places, because the homie Austin also asked me, he's like, well, if those are non-serious places on the internet, then where is the serious wargaming taking place? We were doing this we were having this discussion across the painting table at Hobby Night at our friendly local game store. And I said, right here.
Did you get in a fight?
Right here is where the serious gaming is happening.
Are you about to start a prelude to a fight?
No.
Okay.
No.
Continue. You were chatting it up.
I'm making a whole point here.
Okay. Because I'm worried you're about to say somebody threw hands.
No,
in a game store.
No, but you've somewhat derailed me, sir. Anyway,
woo.
I preface all this by saying that a lot of these discussions are from non-serious places on the internet, and I want to further define what a non-serious place on the internet means, in my opinion. And it is, the internet has created this caricature of a person, a naysayer, of that guy that does not necessarily exist in reality, and certainly not in mass, because I don't think there's anyone who is out loud terribly charged up about a female custode. It is not a discussion that without the internet would exist.
You are right. That is a good point.
Right now in golf, this guy Scotty Scheffler is winning ad nauseum, over and over. And there are places on the internet that compare him to Tiger Woods, the previous guy to win ad nauseum. Now, that is an absurd comparison to make. 4, that dude would have to continue this rate of winning until 2035 before we could really have a good, comparative discussion about the two. And nobody done that ever.
You want to talk about derailed? You mentioned golf, and my train of thought just went off the tracks.
But my point is, that is a ridiculous point for someone to make, and they would never make it if it weren't for the fact that if you say it on Twitter or X, then people will jump in the comments and be like, this is totally ridiculous. And the fact that they're like, that's a stupid thing to say, creates the interaction, the feedback, that then makes the thing go viral. So its own absurdity as a take becomes its self-fulfilling zeitgeist. And that is what I mean when I say non-serious places on the internet.
Well,
that is where female custody discussion
I've thought for so long,
from.
Internet, social media, stuff like that just needs to go out the window.
Well, we would have a hard time selling this podcast.
We would. But for the betterment of humanity, connectivity is great. But the think about all the negative stuff, like what you're saying, it's ridiculous.
I'm here for the negative stuff. I hope, because listen, I'm talking about non-serious places on the internet. Here's a secret, guys. You're at one of those non-serious places on the internet right now, listening to us, because we have now spent 8.5 minutes on female custodies and haven't quite got into it, because we're about to get into it, which is, last week, I thought your take of, as long as I make it work out in the lore, I'm fine, was wild to me.
I'm just saying, I do a podcast about 40K lore. If I'm having to rehash stuff, it makes me look unprofessional.
You dislike...
And I'm always professional.
You dislike the concept of a retcon.
Oh, I do.
And I have got a counterpoint. But first, I want you to explain to the people what you mean. Because for as long as we've had 40K, well, with some exceptions, there have not been any female custodies. All of a sudden there are, and you have an issue with that sort of thing. Not necessarily even this thing, but you have an issue with that sort of thing. Why?
Just the idea that a retcon, if I had to define it, is this in the story has always been this. And you come in late to the party. It's kind of like, well, if I come in new, like after the fact, that's great. But if I am invested, gosh, it just kind of seems a little like you're saying that a little bit of my effort is gone, but I'm not going to get mad about it. I am going to get annoyed about it, and I want to make very clear that is a distinct difference for me.
I hear what you're saying. I counter with this. One, there did used to be female Space Marines when this whole thing started.
Yes, there were.
Also,
I told you about
also, it is my opinion that the internet has been a net negative on any tangible pastime. Anything like sports, like miniature wargaming, like cards, like Magic the Gathering is not better now for the internet existing. And the reason why is because the power of the internet is the hive mind of it.
True.
It's great for solving riddles.
Well, here's a retcon that wasn't very well received. The Force. Midichlorians. There you go. Not a lot of people like that. I don't care because I came in after the fact, but I think you can still hear a few people who watched the original movies back in the 70s. They're still probably pretty mad on the message boards and out there seething somewhere.
On the message boards would be the place.
Yeah,
and
like
that,
you say.
And that's what I was getting to.
Yeah.
Is none of these things are made better by this hive mind, because the hive mind is really good for solving puzzles. It is a net negative, in my opinion, for being able to maintain and monitor the whole of something.
Yeah.
Because I know very little lore of 40K. It doesn't bother. When the thing came out, they would just be like, we're going to write a book about something. And then that would just be stuff that happened. Now, if you were someone who had read every single book, kept some charts, kept up with it, then you might be able to find some outrage in the sudden introduction of a female Space Marine adjacent. I'm just using that as an example. But you would be a weird guy surrounded by books with charts with string on them.
Yeah, I'm Charlie Day.
Right. You're Charlie Day. You'd be the one guy kind of like, well, this is silly. I've got to move my string around. And no one would know that you're a psycho. But that also would put you so far in the minority, because what most people would do is they would have read maybe 4 or 5 Warhammer books.
Yeah.
And they'd be used to this. Like, I pick up a Warhammer book and there's new stuff in it. And then I learn new stuff.
It's the dudes who read all 50 of the Horus Heresy books.
What I mean is that the internet's created a way, because of the way that the hive mind is able to contain the whole of it in real time. People like myself can just parachute in, catch a top 5 lists of plot holes, inconsistencies, stuff that used to not be, and get charged up about it.
Yeah.
Which is a total waste of time and energy.
It is. It really is.
And I say all this to try to encourage people to take a step back from that.
Calm down.
Because that is not a very fun way to be.
Take a
breath. Also,
dude, did you hear about Goobertown Hobbies?
No, I've not heard about Goobertown Hobbies. I am familiar with them, but
he's a very famous YouTuber, does miniature painting, 40K, and just about a few other things. Very nice guy, has a very Bob Ross style of doing the miniatures with the calm voice.
Robert Rossian.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, he posted the other day on Twitter that he was for female Space Marines, and he liked it. Dude, I think he lost a big old chunk of his subscribers.
That's because
he gained some.
That's because non-serious places on the internet like to get charged up. I'm telling you.
Do.
I saw an article.
Are we just going to talk about this topic the whole podcast?
Maybe.
Don't even have a bits box.
It's the hotness. We'll get to the bits box in a minute. I've painted tons of stuff this week.
Oh, you have, yes.
Anyway, I saw an article that estimates some 60% of all internet accounts and traffic are bots. And that in video games and pop culture, that number may be as high as 70%. We're talking about accounts that are in comments, active, possibly whole communities that are not real accounts.
Oh yeah, like bots. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I said. You were interrupted by a visit there while I was talking, but
my family's out of diapers.
No, it's an emergency.
It's an emergency.
Send out the signals.
The torches are lit.
Get the Space Marines out here.
Gondor calls for aid.
But I'm sure that, I mean, here's the other thing about the way that these things work is as soon as a little fire is started, it attracts the rest of that, right? So if you say, I am pro female Space Marines, and you have any amount of pull, if a couple of people pop up just to be, agent provocateur, then you're going to get the rest of the wave, which again is not actually people that exist. And even if it is real people typing on a keyboard, which the jury's out if that's even the case, they're probably not people that hold these opinions very strongly if you were to talk to them in real life. So what I encourage you all to do before we finally open up the Spitz box is try to remember
Be like a 5-minute Spitz box.
that this is ultimately a tangible hobby played in person.
Yes.
With real people that you have real conversations with.
Community.
Try to maintain
Why
that.
They call it a community.
Try to maintain that piece of groundedness in the rest of your discourse.
Be respectful.
You'll have more. Be respectful.
Yes.
Do you have anything else to add about female Custodes?
I'm for it.
Just think what the AI art is going to look like.
Oh, dude, don't even get me started.
Baby.
The Rule 34 people are going insane right now. Just don't even. Anyway, Bitsbox. What's going on in this week in the hobby for you, Mr. Shane Chastain?
I went to Hobby Night on Tuesday. Shout out to Gamers Haven, homie Austin, the Hobby Night. I painted yet another Judge Dredd Citizen Mob model. It looked good. It was quick. It took me like an hour to knock him out. Her out. I think it was a chubby lady with a broken bottle. I gave her blue hair. She looks very angry. And then I went home and I painted some other Judge Dredd stuff. I'm really on the Judge Dredd kick.
We're on a kick. And Star Wars.
Yeah, and a little bit of Star Wars. I've done one of these Shatterpoint bounty hunters. A red guy, red is a tricky color for me. And he's got red skin. He's one of those devil-looking dudes that you have, Would you like to buy some death sticks? You don't want to sell any death sticks. But
I don't want to sell you any death sticks.
You want to go home and rethink your life.
I want to go home and rethink my life.
I did I did a thing that I don't do, which is base coat, wash, highlight.
Oh, fell back into the old habit.
I've played with red a number of times and it never turns out quite right. So I contrast redded this dude, washed him dark, took my regular old red, highlighted him up. He looks great. You set him on the table. The recesses are super duper dark. The highlights are super duper red, bright.
Go to our X and our socials to check out those pictures. I posted all those this week for the Whip Wednesday because Shane was on a
heater
streak.
I was on a heater.
Yeah,
I got my airbrush out. I did some ink action. I did some regular airbrush paints. I did some undercoating, dry brushing. I did all of it. And I built my new tank. My new Chaos Vindicator tank. I built it. Man, let me tell you something. That kit is old. That kit doesn't even have any art on the box.
Love it.
It was in one of those white GW boxes, and I cracked open the instruction book, and it had a regular Vindicator tank, Chaos Vindicator tank, and it did not have any steps, hardly. It did not have any numbers. It did not have any, this part goes on before this part.
Shane, I've got to ask, what is your favorite tank, and why is it the Vindicator?
I don't think the Vindicator is my favorite tank, but it's probably the favorite tank that I've got.
Man,
but
Vindicator. I
put it together, and then I had to get these off the Amazon. They were hard to find, kind of hard to source. I got some pigment powder, Vallejo pigment powder set, and I believe it's called the Dirt and Sand set. It comes with 4 different colors of pigment powder in pretty big jugs. They open and close like medicine bottles, where you got to press down to twist. Very dusty in the packaging as I opened them. But they come with step-by-step instructions on how to apply them and some tips. And so my idea is I didn't want the Chaos Vindicator tank to look terribly well kept. So I got those pigment powders on there. There was a tip in the instructions to use airbrush cleaner, apply that to the surface, and then put the pigment powder on so that it sticks. And it worked wonderfully. I used 2 colors. I wanted like dirty mud, so I did a light gray, and I did one of the dark brown.
Boy, you love that dirty looking model, don't you?
Man, it looks like I took it out and played with it in the yard, and it's so good. I tell you what, though, I just today went and got some Citadel brand golds. I got 2 different golds because the Vallejo gold that I have is gold AF on small things and trim. However, on some of the big flat surfaces, such as on the blade of the bulldozer of the Vindicator tank, it was very, very streaky. It seems that Vallejo gold tends to almost have a grain direction to it, where you look at it from one direction, it's fine. You flip it the other way, and it's like you're looking against the grain or something, and it just looks streaky as can be. So I'm hoping that these other colors are a little more even for those larger surfaces. I will continue to use the Vallejo gold on all my CSM trim.
I'm looking forward to seeing how this turns out because, man, I love a good Vindicator.
Well, I also use some dirty down rust, so it's got rusty parts. It's got dirty parts. Its tracks are just crudded up.
Battle hardened.
Yep, and then I'm going to hit the whole thing with my matte. I think it's matte. I think I got matte varnish,
nice,
which is going to keep all the dirt on it and not on my friend's gaming mats.
There you go.
What have you done in the hobby this week?
I have painted a few of my Bloodbow team. They look really good. I showed you a few just before we started. Mostly just done with contrast paints because, I'm just getting into Bloodbow. I'm not going to go full ham on those, models that are pretty much chaff. So I think they look pretty good. What would you say? No,
they look fine. You did big yellow shoulder pads and things like that, and green skin as they must be because they're an army of yours, and they look great. They're going to look great on the table. They're going to look great on our custom 40K Fanatics Bloodbow pitch, which you can see on X, and those other various non-serious places of the internet. Also, I want to say, as you go and check out our Whip Wednesdays and various things we post on all these non-serious places on the internet, I encourage you to get toxic as possible.
Or show us your minis.
But seriously, people, if you hate what I have to say, I wish you would just say so.
I'll give you his address.
Because we would like for that to generate its own little ecosystem.
And on top of that, my wife surprised me the other day. As I repeatedly, not repeatedly, I've said it in the last pod, I've been going through rather bit of a losing streak in life and on the tabletop. So I have a wonderful significant other, and she decided to surprise me with a gift. I will show you this gift right now. It is the Space Marine board game.
Well, this looks fun.
Starring Captain Titus.
It says that we could play this in 30 minutes.
Yeah, right?
All right, for the rest of the show...
The minis won't be that quick.
For the rest of the show, we're going to play Space Marine the game.
Yeah, it's not opened yet. I wanted to wait until Shane came by to check it out. I figure I'll paint, Captain Titus because he's a Space Marine. I hate that he's an Ultramarine, but whatevs. And then we'll, paint up the Tyranids because you do better with creatures, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Nope, that's not the case.
That's not the case? Okay, so I'll paint up the Tyranids, I'll paint up the Space Marine, and we'll go ahead and play them sometime soon on our custom Bloodbow mat. No, it comes with its own mat and its own ruler and its own dice, so that's pretty dope. I'm psyched. How about you?
I think that this packaging is interesting because this is a Target exclusive buy, right?
$40 at Target. This was on sale, and my wife had a coupon, so she saved $25.
Oh, that's nice. It says on the back here, skill level 2. Set contains unpainted miniatures, assembly required, yada yada. Tools required, nippers. Glue not required, and it's got some little graphics about that.
Yeah.
And I just think that's interesting because I've never seen any other GW kit with any of that kind of
instruction.
Skill level?
Oh, okay, yeah.
What does that mean? What skill level was that Vindicator
tank
with
scale
no?
They're comparing to, yeah.
Well, I think that this is an example of the packaging meeting the expectation of the venue.
There you go. So yeah, I'm gonna get that done. We're gonna play some Space Marine board game. On top of all those things, I've also been painting an Alpha Legion Headhunter Land Raider tank. Let me grab that for you.
We're both painting tanks, huh?
Tankity tank. I'm gonna name it Frank.
Frank the Tank?
For all of those Will Ferrell fans out there.
No, doesn't he play for Milwaukee or something?
I don't know. Will Ferrell will always be Frank the Tank to me. Shout out to you guys who love those old school movies from the early 2000s with Will Ferrell in it. So, yeah, that's about my bits box. Just painting up a Land Raider, painting up a Space Marine, painting up Bloodbow. That's about it. So, anything else for you, Shane?
I could always come up with more to say, but we've got to get to our... I think the tank looks good. Yeah.
Do better.
No, it's great. It just needs some dirt on it. Rub some dirt in it, kid.
Not my call. Anyways, so closing that bits box.
What are we talking about on our main topic today? We've got a limited amount of time now because we had so much house cleaning to do and so many people to get irate, I hope.
We do. We really do. Today we're talking about the new Ork Codex coming out. Got some topics, tricks, theories, opinions that we want to share with all of you at home.
A lot of my study is coming secondhand from the Tabletop Tactics people who I subscribe to. They're out of the UK and they're really fun. I recommend them for your crunchy 40K news as well as many battle reports. They've also got a D&D campaign that they're doing right now, which sometimes I feel that the tone is a little heavy.
Really?
But for the most part, it's really...
D&D?
Well, yeah. You can always have heavy D&D.
I'd rather have fun D&D.
Yeah, I do too.
Goofy.
I do too, and this is often goofy, but sometimes it seems very serious, which seems like a strange idea to me. However, the miniatures are beautiful, and the characters are fun in that, and it's my opinion that they make the most fun battle reports out there. So check out Tabletop Tactics, but also, it was there that I studied what these new orcs are going to do, and I think... if the rest of us get detachments that are
anything
this,
like
that are this just
crunchy,
intrinsically usable, we're all going to be having a great time.
They really are practical. Starting off with the first detachment, let's hit the Green Tide. Coming at you, that old-fashioned orky style of let's throw some boys at it.
I feel like that if this is a top 5 list, you have just done the list backwards.
Look, this is for me. Sir, the orc player.
I know, but you've just put the best one first.
Green Tide is the very classic, let's throw big mobs of boys at the problem, see what happens.
Huge mobs.
Yeah, and with this, you get a detachment rule of mob mentality, giving a 5-up invuln save to your boys. And if you have more than 10, you get to reroll the saving rolls of 1. That's pretty good, because you've seen my 5-up invuln saves. I don't roll anything but ones.
I think you're burying the lead a little bit. That is not a 5-up invuln on the wall, an extra 5-up invuln.
That's just general.
That's just all the time,
all
kids.
All the time.
And
that's major.
And that is for the first 10, you get to reroll ones, which I think gives you another 11% or something, maybe 13% of conversion.
I mean, I've got it right here if you want to read it.
you have the odds?
I got the
Yeah, no, I know that.
You got the odds. Okay.
No, what I'm saying is so a 5-up is like what is it? It's a 20% chance of success,
yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
But then when you reroll the ones,
gives you a better chance.
Then you've got another go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They've also got, the ferocious show off enhancement. We're moving on to enhancements now. The enhancement that really sticks out, Ferocious Show-Offs, is great because it adds 1 to the strength of the bearer's melee weapons, mainly just orc infantry. But, this is major because if you have 10 or more models, it adds 3 to the strength of the models. Like 20 boys with +3 strength on their hit, that's definitely wounding.
Well, that's going to go on an attached character.
Oh yeah,
yeah. So that's going to go on your war boss.
Yeah, leading 20 boys
who could absolutely just be wrecking tanks with strength. What's a war boss strength in the WoW?
Oh gosh.
Is it 10 normally?
I think it depends on what he's got equipped.
Yeah.
I know that like power claws are like strength 8.
You're right. So then it's 9, 10, 11, 12.
Yeah, exactly. It's chunky. And you got that, on top of that, you got that bulldozer brutality stratagem. Seems pretty popular because I couldn't really understand it. I feel like this is one of those ones I'm going to have to ask you to key in on. But from what my understanding is, you pay a CP and you have your boys in the fight phase all pushed up against your enemy. So when you resolve their attacks, models that can target that enemy unit can be the whole unit, not just within 3?
No, this is the 3-inch engagement range one.
Yes.
Yeah. So what that means is normally your engagement range is anything within 1 inch.
Yes.
Or anything in any model that is in base-to-base contact with a model that is also in base-to-base contact with the target. So what that means is 2 ranks or within 1 inch.
Yes.
Okay? What this strat does is it lets you go 3 inches back. Okay?
From that?
No, from anywhere.
Okay.
So you make yourself a 3-inch aura around the target.
Oh.
Let's make it easy and call it a dreadnought because it's got a base. Okay?
Yeah.
So you make 3 inches out from the dreadnought, and anything standing with a toe in 3 inches of that can fight.
My, oh my.
And the reason you want that with a big old horde of boys is because...
Extra attacks.
Well, we know how it is to get everybody into combat with the boys. It's very difficult, especially with this green tide. You're going to be...
Yeah.
The meta will be to get 120 boys painted up and laid out. And it will be the gummiest, most difficult thing to deal with for both players. Because the enemy for you will be moving them around. It will be the chess clock.
Moving on.
Let me tell you guys, a good way to beat the green tide will be to remind them
Let them run out the time. Yeah.
will be to remind your opponent that you can't have bases overlapping.
Horde armies, beware.
Oh, that guy's propped up on his buddy. You can't have that.
Yeah.
Move him around, please.
To the most unfortunate named detachment out of all the detachments, the Big Hunt.
The Big Hunt, I feel like, is the least usable one because it's the one that's all squig dudes, right?
Yep. Got some really interesting stuff in there.
It is fun. It's not. It's weird because it's not the speed wad dudes.
It's not,
but it's kind of that way.
Yeah, well, an interesting part about this is apparently the Knob on Smasher Squig is now part of the unit. He is not his own model anymore. So if you're running a lot of Squig Hog boys, you're going to have that extra movement. And then with the detachment rule, you are going to be able to pick the warlord or vehicle or a monster from the enemy army and pick it as your prey. This is going to give you reroll charge rolls and also improve the armor penetration by 1. It's pretty aces, pretty good. I mean, you're already doing +1 to hit as well because you're a beast snagga, so that's a pretty good buff.
I think it'll be fun.
And it's not broke.
Right. There's a lot of people that like the mounted, riders and stuff like that, and they've got, you'll be able to do all that.
Yeah, pretty much.
Which is always fun.
They get a lot of bonuses for taking down the big stuff. And the best part about that is if the warlord dies or the target dies and say nothing fitting that classification is left, you can then switch to just characters. Which I'm just saying, late game, if a character's left, you've probably done something wrong. Moving on, I do like some of their strats. I would have to say that one of my favorite is Unstoppable Momentum. You get a 4-up for mortal wounds per model when mounted beast snagga units charge an enemy. So you could potentially do to a max of 6 mortal wounds after rolling 3d6.
Yeah, it's Orc Shock.
Yeah, pretty much. It's Orc Tank Shock, but with mounted Orc squigs. Yeah. So like you were saying, you could basically spam this and do all squig riders.
Well, and it makes a lot more sense than the Outrider detachment for the Space Marines because they don't really have enough bikes to make that make sense. There are enough of those kind of orc units to make it make sense.
You've also got 1 CP for where'd you think you're going. Whenever a enemy unit falls back from your Beast Naga or your mounted Beast Naga units, you get to make a normal 6-inch movement towards that unit.
That's kind of fun.
I know, that's kind of cool, right? Like, you can just imagine the harpoon from the big bounce a squig, like trailer. I don't remember what it's really called. Just bringing them back, kind of Scorpion Mortal Kombat style.
Is that the kill rig?
Kill rig, that's it, or hunter rig.
Right.
Yeah. Moving on to the next detachment, we've got the Dread Mob, my boys.
Yeah, this is like
So psyched.
Yeah, this one's the hero hammer of the orc detachments, isn't it? It's
no, that would be more of the Bully Boys.
Oh, this is not right.
You want to talk about Bully Boys instead?
Yeah, I thought this was Bully Boys. I forget because these are too similar, right? So the Dread Mob is for
walkers, grot vehicles, and also orc walkers and mechs.
Interesting.
Yeah, so the detachment rule is if you want, for every time you shoot or fight, you roll a d6. You can either get a 1 to 2 and get sustained hits 1, 3 to 4 get you lethals. Or
this is the try that button one.
Yes, try that button.
I love this one. This is my favorite one.
5 to 6, you get an attack on a crit wound, improves the AP by 2.
I thought the whole thing was called try that button because
that's the detachment rule, yeah.
It's the most fun thing in the world.
You can also choose to change that to where, like you said, Orcs players are definitely going to run out the clock on some of this. But running like 8 kilocans and every time each one of them attacks, you're rolling that. That's crazy. So you can choose to just pick one. You pick one, but it becomes a hazardous.
Right.
Dealing you mortal wounds if it fails. I'm excited about this one because I really love my kilocans.
I just think it's the most fun thing in the world.
It really is.
I think that there will be people that like the crunchy, sweaty dudes are going to hate it because you can't count on it.
Yeah.
But anybody that likes to play orcs for the fun of playing orcs is going to love this.
Fair.
And you've got plenty of stuff of that type with your cans, and you'll have to get some more stuff like that. And well, I mean, the Stomp is a walker.
Yeah, exactly. You get Stompas, you get Gorkanauts, you got your Killicans, all that stuff. Moving on to stratagems, we've talked about bigger shells for bigger gets before. Pretty self-explanatory. You get +1 to move monsters and vehicles at range. You push and get hazardous for +1 damage, which is kind of mid-tier. Mainly want to take it against something that's kind of big. But my favorite are, let's see, what's it called? Super Fueled Boiler. An orc walker in its movement phase rerolls advance rolls and all of its ranged weapons switch to assault.
Wow.
So I could have my Gorkanaut with 30 shots, do an advance roll around a corner, and lay into your Legionnaires with all of its weapons. Yes. Just so great. Daka. We got Daka back, guys, too. That's pretty awesome. And then last stratagem for the Dread Mob, my personal favorite, 1 CP for conniving runts. Because, the grot's got to get repped too, right? So, enemy movement phase, whenever an enemy moves within 9 inches of a grot unit. And this is Gretchen, not Killicans, guys. You roll D3 +1 to cause mortals. It's D3 +1 mortals on a 4-up. And
nice.
then the Gretchen get to run away at a normal movement. How thematic is that?
It's all thematic and all good.
Oh, it's so good. Now, moving on to the Bully Boys. This is pretty crunchy. A lot of people have been talking about it. It is essentially a detachment of, oops, all war bosses. You get your mega knobs, your knobs, your war bosses all get a second wah during the battle.
Yeah, then that's a big deal because there are a lot of abilities on those data sheets,
and orc characters are cheap.
That are going to do some wild stuff twice.
Exactly. Gas counts, all the characters count. Plus you've got mega knobs doing a second one, causing even more dev wounds. It's hysterical madness, cats and dogs living together, crazy nonsense. I would have to say that my favorite strat for this would definitely be, oh gosh, it really just slipped my mind. My mind as I thought about it. I love this strat too. Sorry, folks, you won't get that today.
He lost it. He had it, and he lost it.
I had it, and I lost it. What do you think about Bully Boys, Shane, while I try to recollect this?
The Bully Boys, I mean, look, when the Space Marines Codex came out, there's a detachment. I don't know what it's called, but it's got a lot of enhancements and things that are like, once per battle, such and such can do blank. And it's the Hero Hammer detachment, where you just...
It really is. It's the Hero Hammer detachment.
Yeah, you have a bunch of characters, and they all take a turn at some point saying, this is my time to shine, and you pop your once per battle thing, and you hope everything goes fine. And I cannot wait for my Chaos Space Marine Codex to have one of those. Because let me tell you, the other day I played a game and I think I had 7 characters. I can't help myself.
Characters are the best. I mean, you love Harkin, you love your Abadan, you love your Master of Possession, you love that Executioner.
Gotta have them. I gotta have them.
Fantastic.
And now, if we've got the Orks out here playing Hero Hammer, then my odds are looking great. I'm just excited that, like, the Necron Codex seemed like it would have a lot of fun stuff, but people really only use 2 detachments. And I do put that at the feet of the competitive meta. There's no reason you can't use the rest of those detachments. Like, you don't have to win all the time, folks. I know that seems hard to believe, but if you come play somebody like me, you can play any of those detachments and you might win. Because I intend to play all sorts of this silliness. But the Orks especially, because none of these detachments necessarily have any look to them. I'm using the Space Marines Codex because that's what, sort of like beef or chicken, chicken's everybody's center, and then and then you go fish off one side and you go beef off the other, and pork's like above or below the other white meat. And so Space Marines is kind of the center that you branch off of everything, at least in my thinking. That Salamander detachment would feel weird to run with a whole pile of Ultramarines, wouldn't it?
Yeah, because I mean,
but none of this Ork stuff.
They're all Orks.
It's just all Orks, isn't it?
Yeah.
They haven't really leaned into the various clans like they did in Ninth. Yeah. It's just
they really did.
It's just there's a giant wall going on,
and everyone's invited,
and we're zooming in on a chunk of this planet-wide infestation.
Yeah.
And where we've zoomed into is a bunch of dudes on bikes.
Exactly. And then you got the Cult of Speed detachment, which is basically the 9th edition speed wall. You get to shoot, advance, fall back, the whole deal to get that extra movement. And I predict a lot of tank shock with those guys because you're advancing pretty much turn 1, getting across the board, getting bonuses to charge. Man, Cult of Speed is going to be wild.
Cult of Speed's always fun just because you get those ridiculous vehicles. I can never, ever, never keep any part of their name straight. You'll tell me that such and such is going to shoot at me, and I'm just like, you're going to have to point.
Rocket Truck Squig Buggy?
Yeah, and then you'll be like, and then the
Boomdack is Snazwagon?
Right.
And then here comes my Def Killer War Trike.
And then they go to charge, and I have the same questions. I'm like, who?
You're like, Overwatch.
What? What am I overwatching? I don't even know.
Oh, gosh. So, we're getting pretty close here to the end, guys.
It's time now for our exclusive Space Marine segment. The Custodes Codex came out too.